Hello, everybody. Welcome here to the first ever podcast of Ben and Daniel. I think we're going to call it Drive Away Talk. Daniel, is that right?
I think that sounds right, Ben. I mean, I'm down if that's cool with everybody else and wherever this is going to be projected to. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a little brief background on it. Me and Daniel, Daniel and I guess if I'm going to do podcasts, I might as well be proper grammar, so excuse me for that. But Daniel and I, usually, whenever we hang out, we spend about a good hour and a half or two just talking outside of my driveway, 20-degree weather, whatever it takes. We talk about sports for 2 hours, and one of the topics we talked about was, hey, why don't we start a podcast? So that's where we are here. But Daniel and I are gonna go over a couple of different topics here. We'll give you a little background information. If Dan, you want to go first, just tell everybody, where you're born, your favorite teams, and just the whole criteria of your sports lifestyle.
well, my sports lifestyle probably started as a young whippersnapper back in the day. I started playing baseball when I was three, and quit when I was graduated from high school. Had surgically repaired knees. It's kind of one of those things where the colleges kind of come knock for a little second, and then it's like, yeah, they start looking at your medical history, and they're like, yeah, it's not, definitely can't head in that way. But definitely born in the great state of North Carolina. That's a wonderful, wonderful, fun-filled fact there, and was born in Raleigh, born and raised, so been here 23 years and loving every minute of it. So my favorite teams will definitely a Brewers guy. Pops is from Milwaukee, so gotta give a little love there. And my NFL team is the Packers, just because again Dad was from there, and gotta show some love there. Don't mind the Panthers either. Give them some love every once in a while when they need it and everything. And my NHL team's definitely the Hurricanes. That's a local team, as you know, there, Ben. But you got to have the local flavor when you go to the games every once in a while and everything. And then my NBA team, I'm not a real big NBA guy. Ben's trying to break me in, but I haven't drank all the juice of the NBA thing. I can watch a little bit of the playoffs, but not a big NBA guy. So Ben's trying to break me into there. So why don't you give us a little bit of background on you there, Ben, with your bio there?
I will. Just like how Daniel said, favorite NFL team, of course, is the Packers. Boom, 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 boom. Left me hanging there, man.
Oh, go, Pack, go, my bad. So this whole virtual reality, like talking back thing and like waiting for the punchlines,
Exactly.
I'm not good with that. You know how that is.
We'll get a soundboard eventually. But anyway,
Maybe.
going to MLB, I've always been a Braves fan. My dad, both my parents grew up Braves fans, so I've always kind of been that way. My dad grew up a Packers fan. Growing up in the 70s, he just always have had an admiration for the Packers, just a great respect for him, and how can you disrespect that organization? NHL was kind of probably my weaker side. That's one of Daniel's strengths. So I have NBA strength. He has NHL strength. Which we're kind of working each other there. But of course, I'm going with the Hurricanes. Remember when they won the Stanley Cup? It was a great opportunity to see that. So that's always fun to remember. NBA team, I guess I have to go with the Charlotte Bobcats. But NBA is probably
you sure about that, man? Bobcats? Really? The Bobcats?
I mean, this hometown.
You're not that guy that's like the Heat guy, are you? Where you're just like,
no.
let's jump on the bandwagon, right?
No, I mean NBA it's really a sport to where, of course, I'm a Bobcats fan by default, but it's just kind of a game where I just kind of love the game as itself, and I like to follow different players. It makes it fun to not have a specific team in there, and just to kind of be neutral and enjoy the different players, their styles, and just the evolution of the game. I'm a senior at Charlotte, go 49ers, and Daniel forgot to mention he is a super senior at Campbell. Daniel and I both have the opportunity to work for our sports radio stations online with the Campbell Athletic website and charlotte49ers.com as well. We get to do a lot of great stuff, and why waste any more time, Daniel? We can go ahead and start off with what's buzzing around Twitter and everything, that being the World Series.
My personal favorite topic of any time of the year. I mean, it could be the middle of spring training, and we can talk World Series talk if we need to. So, hopefully we'll be doing this until spring training. Maybe, but
well,
you never know. So.
Well, we can go and start off. Dan, I remember Daniel, you told me a couple weeks ago or about a week ago, you said Red Sox in 6. And right now, as you see, the Red Sox are up 3-2 heading back to Boston, which they're looking to close out a World Series for the first time in Boston in 95 years. So it looks to be a
That's a
first time for
long time,
everything.
man. That's a long time, even between us. I mean, that's a long time. There have
Yeah.
been 95 years. Goodness gracious.
All
But
right, well,
yeah,
Daniel, what made you want to pick Boston in 6? Like, what was your gut feeling to make you choose that?
the gut feeling is Boston's got a great pitching staff, and then also they've got Big Poppy there at first. I mean, the guy he could be 0 for a million going into the World Series. All of a sudden, he wakes up and he's like the next star. Like it's unbelievable. I mean, going into tonight, I think he's 12 for 15 after tonight's game. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, that's over 800. I mean, as a baseball guy, Poppy's there. You got Pedroia there at second. You got Ellsbury in the outfield. You got a lot of pitching and the back end of the bullpen. That's one thing that I tend to look at. Being a Brewers guy, we don't have much of the back end of the bullpen, but I see Boston's got that the great closer that they've got. They've also got the setup guy that's lights out. But it's probably the best pound for pound matchup if you look at position by position there with the Cardinals and the Red Sox, which is what makes it an interesting series to me. But Ben, what was your prediction on that? I can't remember exactly what you told me. I think you said Boston, but I don't know if I remember the games or not. I don't
Yeah,
remember
I
about
mean,
that.
I said about 6 or 7, and I just feel like Boston, as you said, just has the great pitching. Just all the pitching they have in the bullpen, it's just unstoppable. It seems like I mean, of course, Cardinals they have Wainwright and just all the great fielders. A lot of the players have been there, done that. But I think it's just Red Sox time again, though. I mean, of course, people expected them to be better than last year, but I think making the World Series was a stretch to some people. But I think the people in the organization believed in what they had. He's talked about Big Poppy. He can go 0 for 10 and then go 12 for 15 in World Series. He just seems to be unstoppable. And kind of segueing into something else we can talk about is I was personally surprised that the Red Sox have got two here in St. Louis. As far as when you play in NL, you can't have a DH spot and stuff like that. I was kind of worried how that was going to affect the Boston's lineup. With having Napoli at first and Ortiz and DH, but I think they did a good job as far as balancing that. And having Ortiz play some, and then Napoli coming in towards the end, both because they're both great hitters, and you don't want to leave one out.
Right, and that's another big thing. Poppy's not exactly the spring chicken of the staff over there at first base. I mean, Napoli's no young guy either, and he's got catcher's legs too. But as you can see, you've got the versatility there. If you're Boston, you take Poppy out in the 7th or 8th inning and have a pinch runner for him, try and steal a base, and then you bring in Napoli, which is probably a plus fielder over what Poppy's got in the field. But then again, if it goes into extra innings, you got Napoli in the hole there hitting. So it's a win-win, either way you look at it. And then if you go back to Boston, you've got you've got your extra bat. You got Napoli and Ortiz back to back. I mean, and I think the unsung hero actually of the night's game is David Ross. You look at it, 2 for 3, 2 RBIs. What a great night for a catcher. I mean, and his pitcher through 8 innings. You can't get much better than that, I don't think, Ben.
Yeah, I mean that's even some. As you said, the bullpen is for the Red Sox is definitely what will be the key to the win. And we talked about when the playoff brackets first came out. My Braves were in it and stuff like that, and we made predictions. At one point, you said actually before the playoffs were about to start, you said the A's have a good chance, and I asked you why. You said it's all about the bullpen, and like as you get closer to these games, if you notice the teams that are in here, they always have that 1 or 2 aces. I mean. Tigers are out now, but when you have Scherzer and Verlander and your back-to-back punch, it's hard to beat them. Something the Braves lacked on, especially with Tim Hudson being out. I mean, I think every baseball team, if they want to go far, you need to have those aces. Greinke, Kershaw, Dodgers, lesser on them. With the Red Sox, pitching is the ultimate key if you want to make it far in the playoffs.
Well, good pitching always beats good hitting, man. You know the old adage, we got to have good pitching so we can get to beat good hitting. But I look at it in the long run. You got a guy that goes 6 or 7 innings, 30 starts a year for you. That's 210 innings. If you look at 7 for 30, you're at 210 innings. That's remarkable. It takes pressure off your bullpen, and then in the playoffs, you can really go to those guys and pound 6 outs, 7 outs from your closer, and really have faith and confidence in them to shut the door. And that's a big thing too, there, Ben.
Yeah, and we talked about one point, we might have to skip over it for time issues, but we can still talk about the game 4 and 5 endings, as we saw both of them were kind of controversial. We were together there for one of them. You want to expand on that
What
as far as going to game 4?
what game four, Ben? I mean, we flipped it on. We were hanging out, flipped it on, and I don't even know what happened there. All of a sudden, I see I see Middlebrooks go down there and try to get the ball after Saltalamacchia buries it down the left field line, and it's just like, what just happened? And I saw, help me with his name, Ben. Trying to think of what his name is. Alan Craig. Is that his name, Craig?
I
At
believe
first,
that was it, but don't
I
hold it
think
to
that's
us.
it. I think that's it. He trips over Middlebrooks, and then interference is called. I don't know if he makes it home anyways. As bad as that foot is now, I don't know what the deal is there exactly. But Jim Joyce on the call there makes it immediately, and I don't know about the interference. But what did you think, Ben? I mean, the first thing I said is it's a judgment call, so you can't fault him either way. But man, it's just hard to lose a game on that kind of call right there.
Well, and it's just unfortunate that it happened to Jim Joyce. Like we all know what he did with Armando Galarraga a couple of years ago, the perfect game. He had some kind of mess up other than that. But I mean, of course, at the time I was kind of fired up thinking it was going to be a bad call. But I'm actually trying to find the actual rule that Buster Olney tweeted about last night. But I mean, if you're going just straight from the text and from the rule book, technically it was obstruction rule. The fielder does not have to be in the actual baseline. Any kind of obstruction from the runner going from point A to point B is obstruction. Now you can say whether his feet were up in the air, causing it more, which made the call easier for him. I mean, it was a bang bang play, but in the end, I think Jim Joyce made the right call. It just happened to be in the Cardinals' favor again.
Yeah, I think it was the right call there, man. But then also, as I tweeted out, I just don't know. I just don't know about that call. That was literally how I felt. And then I guess we can move on to game five here, Ben. What kind of cases could you ask for after that crazy ending? And then you get the walk off, pick off. I mean, how many more times you gonna do that in this series? I think they said last night it was the first time of any time in the World Series that ended with a pickoff at first base. Now, Ben, let me just break this down for you here. If you're the guy at first, you're down 2 runs. You got Beltran at the plate. Why in the world are you even thinking about going anywhere, let alone getting an extra step or two?
I don't know. I mean, it was kind of tough. It was a young player. Even knows they interviewed him after the game and he cried. So I mean, he knew that he made a mess up. And whenever you watch the replay, you notice that he was leaning a little bit too far to the right. Had his right foot off the ground, so he had to plant it back down and step back to the other side. And in a game when a pickoff, when a pitcher has a great pickoff move, like one half step the wrong way, and that's clearly can be an out. Baseball can
But
be a game of inches sometimes, and
right, and then the funny thing is though, Ben, if you go back and look at it, you look at the pitcher. He doesn't even make that good of a move. He steps off the back of the rubber and then turns and throws it. He doesn't do the pivot move, which to me was like, really? You really got caught leaning off of that? Like, as a ball player, it's just like, you can't do that. You can't make that out. You just can't do it no matter what happens.
yeah, it's frustrating. But I mean, I guess it's kind of like both teams now can luckily, or both fan bases, whoever you want to say, can now say something's happened on both sides, balanced out. Now they can move on to the next game. And luckily, tonight's game that just happened, with the Red Sox taking the victory, happened to be no controversial calls ending the game. Both teams got one. I think that kind of helps out as far as I'm sure Jim Joyce has a little sigh of relief there as far as knowing that both teams ended up with a call going their way. And I mean, at the time, umpires have done a great job as far as calling the right ones. They were debatable, of course, but that's the game of baseball. A lot of it's about judgment.
That's right.
You just have to move on from it.
And as you mentioned, Jim Joyce will be behind the plate in Game 6 in Boston, so we'll see how that ends up for him. Hopefully no blaring calls or anything bad like that. We don't wish that on any umpire for sure.
Oh, that's definitely for sure. We had a couple more topics, but again, once a time, we'll just move on.